Welcome to In the Spotlight, a regular podcast from the Witham, Barnard Castle's Community Arts Centre.
Hello and welcome along once again. Stuart Laundy here with In the Spotlight, the weekly podcast from the Witham Community Arts Centre here in good old Barnard Castle, County Durham. We're talking the Beatles this week, or at least we're talking the songs the Beatles gave away as they form the basis of a show that's coming to the Witham next month. It's been brought by Bob Harris and Colin Hall. Colin will be along in a couple of minutes to chat more about the show. Coming up a bit later on, we've got Jane Woodward, who will be along to tell us what's coming up in the next few days and the next few months, and something with a Strictly connection in amongst all that lot. But to kick off, here is one of the aforementioned songs that the Beatles, or at least Lennon and McCartney, wrote for Billy J. Kramer. This is Bad to Me.
If you ever leave me, I'll be sad and blue. Don't you ever leave me, I'm so in love with you. The birds in the sky would be sad and lonely if they knew that I'd lost my one and only. They'd be sad if you're bad to me. The leaves on the trees would be softly sighing if they heard from the breeze that you left me crying. They'd be sad. Don't be bad to me. But I know you won't leave me, 'cause you told me so. And I've no intention of letting you go, just as long as you let me know you won't be bad to me. So the birds in the sky won't be sad and lonely, 'cause they know that I've got my one and only. They'll be glad you're not bad to me. You won't leave me, 'cause you told me so. And I've no intention of letting you go, just as long as you let me know you won't be bad to me. So the birds in the sky won't be sad and lonely, 'cause they know that I've got my one and only. They'll be glad you're not bad to me. They'll be glad you're not bad to me. To me.
So on Tuesday, October the 3rd, we've got a show coming to the Witham, which is Bob Harris and Colin Hall and the songs the Beatles gave away. And I'm delighted to say that one half of the duo joins me for this week's In the Spotlight podcast. Colin Hall, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Stuart. Thank you very much for inviting me to talk to you.
I think the best thing to do is just explain to us what the show's about.
Well, Bob and I are long-time friends, and the show is really about two blokes who have a mutual appreciation of the Beatles, talking about the Beatles and their association over a program that we did together called The Songs the Beatles Gave Away, that I later developed into a book that went on sale last year, detailing these 26 songs that the Beatles wrote as the Beatles, John and Paul as the Beatles, for other artists that were not recorded by the Beatles themselves. They gave to other artists. So it's like a little, it's like a separate songbook of material that the boys had that they didn't record themselves, or they didn't release commercially.
Does it come as a surprise to many people to realise that they wrote? That they gave their songs away to other artists? Because I think the impression is that the Beatles were a very self-contained unit for the years that they were together.
I think it does to younger listeners, to folk in an advanced stage of maturity, as myself and Bob. It It doesn't, because we remember artists such as Billy J. Kramer and Cilla Black and the Foremost, people like this. We remember them from the 60s because they were chart-topping artists. But for younger people, these are unknowns. Yeah. And so I think it does come as a surprise that with these records, Peter and Gordon, have #1 hits with songs written by John and Paul that they could well have turned into #1s for themselves.
Was it a case of artists coming to them and saying, "Can you write for us?" Or was it a case of Lennon and McCartney coming up with a song and thinking it's perhaps not quite right for us, but we think it'll be good for Cilla Black, for example?
Well, I think it was a bit of both. In the very early days, I think it was Brian Epstein, the manager of the Beatles, who, having got the Beatles going and realizing one of the things that appealed to Brian, and he realized that he could exploit, if you like, was the fact that two of the boys in the band, John and Paul, had a gift for writing songs. And he, like most managers in those days, knew that most musical artists had a limited lifespan as hit material. Most artists in those days, 2, 3, maybe 4 years as chart artists. So he was looking, as most artists were, to what are they going to do when they're no longer making the charts. And one of the questions that the Beatles would always get asked right from the word go is, what are you going to do when the bubble bursts? And so for John and Paul, he realized that there was a future as songwriters. So he was looking towards that, and he knew, therefore, that it would be very helpful to them if their name, Lennon and McCartney, was already out there as songwriters, separate to the Beatles imprint. So it would be good for them if they'd become known as songwriters. So when he's developing his stable of artists, who he's plucking from the clubs of Liverpool, Billy J. Kramer, Cilla Black, Tommy Quickly, the Foremost, well, he's got an in-house team of songwriters, Lennon and McCartney. And so he's going to them, and they've got songs from when they were young, much younger, even Quarrymen, the group they were before the Beatles. They've got songs they've written, and they want to record their new songs. So they've got some songs which they think, well, these are good enough. Maybe not good enough for the Beatles anymore, but Hello, Little Girl, Love of the Loved. We can give these to these artists that Brian's got.
Yeah,
and they took them into the charts.
Did they write them throughout their Beatles career, or are they from the early part, the middle part, or the later part?
Well, initially they're going to be songs. For instance, with the Foremost, John had written "Hello, Little Girl," possibly one of the very first, if not the very first song that he wrote in 1957. He thinks this is a song that he can actually share with Paul. "Hello, Little Girl." In its initial, in its first form, it's very Buddy Holly-ish, but he thinks it's one that he can share with Paul, and it helps to kickstart. Paul had written one called "I Lost My Little Girl," and they share these songs, and it kickstarts that songwriting partnership. But years later, he's going to gift this to the Foremost. I think he tried it with Jerry and the Pacemakers, but they were already on the way. But so yes, that one or two come from the past, but they've got songs like Dreamers Do is a very early one, that they record for Decca, to try and get a recording contract for Decca, and that will go to the Applejacks. But they will custom write So Bad to Me was one John wrote specifically for Billy J. Kramer, with Billy J. Kramer's singing voice in mind.
Yeah.
And that's a cracking song that he gives to Billy J. Kramer.
So the show that you're bringing on tour this autumn, it strikes me as if it's kind of like a live documentary.
It is, and I think that's a really great way. I must remember that, actually. That's a great phrase. I'm going to use that.
I'll be after me 10%.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll put a contract in the post. But no, yeah, that's true. And what we're blessed with is that we did a documentary. I think it was in 2009. It could have been 2010, for BBC Radio 2, and we interviewed Sir Paul, we interviewed Sir George Martin, Cilla Black, Billy Hatton out of the Foremost, Jackie Lomax, Billy J, and we interviewed these artists, songwriter Paul, and we're able to tap into some of their comments. And so they join us, if you like, temporarily on stage, and through their recorded comments. And we've got little clips of songs that we can use. So yes, it is. It's very much two gentlemen talking about the songs, and a little interjections every now and then from the people they're talking about.
Step inside, love. Let me find you a place where the cares of the day will be carried away by the smile on your face. We are together now and forever. Come my way. Step inside, love, and stay. Step inside, love. Step inside, love. Step inside, love. I want you to stay. You look tired, love. Let me turn down the light. Coming out of the cold, rest your head on my shoulder and love me tonight. I'll always be here if you should need me, night and day. Step inside, love, and stay. Step inside, love. Step inside, love. Step inside, love. I want you to stay. When you leave me, say you'll see me again. For I know in my heart we will not be apart, and I'll miss you till then. We'll be together now and forever. Come my way. Step inside, love, and stay. Step inside, love. I want you to step inside, love. You know I do. Step inside, love. I want you to stay.
Hi, this is Stacey from the CAF, and you're listening to In the Spotlight, the Withams podcast.
And this week we're talking to Colin Hall about the songs the Beatles gave away, such as that one. That was Cilla Black, of course, and Step Inside Love, written by Lennon and McCartney. The songs the Beatles gave away form the basis of a show that Colin's bringing to the Witham with his old mate Bob Harris at the beginning of October. Would you say you need to be something of a Beatles aficionado to get the most out of this show, or does it have a more general appeal to your basic music fans?
Well, I think it does have a general appeal because it's about the art of songwriting. It's about a period in history, the 60s. If you like good music, I think it has a general appeal because it's about the art of songwriting. It's about a period in history that won't, I think, it can't be repeated. It cannot be repeated. I think it takes the audience back to that golden age of British music, when British music dominated the world. British artists dominated the world music scene in a way that I I'd love to think I know we do still have artists who are extremely popular around the world. But for a brief moment, particularly in the early 60s, the sound of Liverpool, in particular the Mersey sound. But our show is about the entire 60s, because John and Paul, particularly Paul, kept gifting songs that he'd written, like Come and Get It to Badfinger, Goodbye to Mary Hopkin, which are going to go into the charts around the world. And so, I think it paints a picture of that golden decade. So I do think it has an appeal beyond. And so far, in shows that we've done, we are getting people who are not being wheeled into the theatre by their grandchildren. We're getting a wider audience than that.
And what's your own connection to the Beatles? Obviously, you're a Liverpudlian.
Oh yeah.
I'm not so sure whether you're a contemporary of Lennon and McCartney, or you came a few years after that. But what's your association with it all?
Well, I'm a 49er. So, born in 1949. So definitely, a few years after John and Paul. But I grew up in the 60s. So, I was able to go to the Cavern. Didn't quite catch the Beatles at the Cavern, but that next generation of groups. But I was certainly aware of the Beatles as a teenager growing up in Liverpool. And so I guess my major claim to association with the Beatles is 20 years of looking after John Lennon's former home in Liverpool, where he lived with his auntie Mimi. I worked for the National Trust, looking after John's house on behalf of the Trust and Yoko Ono Lennon. And my wife, Sylvia, for 10 years, looked after Sir Paul's former home, 20 Forthland Road. And on a daily basis, we'd show visitors from around the world and talk to them about John and Paul's houses, which is, of course, where they would meet and spend time learning songs to play with the Quarrymen, their first group. And also, I'm a friend of Colin Hall, the drummer in John's original group, the Quarrymen. And I grew up in Witham in Liverpool, which is where John lived and where the Quarrymen first played at the Church Fete. Well, they didn't first play at the Church Fete. What I mean is, it's the Church Fete in Walton where John and Paul first met. Yeah. And as a little lad, I went to the Church Fete. I don't remember much about it, truth be told, but I was there.
One last question, I think. Is there anything left to find out about the Beatles? Do we know everything there is to know about the Beatles, do you think?
I personally think we do. But, like in the news yesterday or today, I can't remember because they all merge into one to me. They're searching for Paul McCartney's Hofner bass and what have you and all of this. So they're still capable of making the news, and there's always something they reckon they've got to find. And Paul recently found those beautiful photographs of 1963, 64, the rolls of films that photographs that he'd taken from the epicenter, the eye of the storm, So there's always something that you can find, or they can find, and we'll find. But I don't think there's too much more. But they'll always make news, and people want to know. There's an insatiable desire for knowledge about them. When I was at the houses, it was incredible. Those minibuses full of people coming 4 times a day to John's house were full. Incredible.
Well, we look forward to welcoming you to the Witham on Tuesday, October the 3rd. Colin, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to coming. Yeah, it'd be great. I'm looking forward to it very much. Thank you for letting me speak to you. Thank you.
So the songs the Beatles gave away with Bob Harris and Colin Hall comes to the Witham on Tuesday, October the 3rd. Full details are on the website, www.thewitham.org.uk, and tickets are available now.
Hi, this is Tabby from The Cafe, and you're listening to In the Spotlight, the Witham's podcast.
So it's that time again in the podcast where we welcome Jane Woodward. How are you doing, Jane?
I'm all right, Stuart. What about you?
Yeah, good. I'm going off on a boat this weekend. I'm in perfect harmony with myself.
You are. You seem very jolly.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're here to talk about what's coming up. And the first thing, before we get into the next week, we've got a bit of a Strictly thing coming on, haven't we?
We have, yes.
Are you a Strictly fan?
No, I don't actually watch Strictly Come Dancing, but I believe it's starting again this weekend.
Well, apparently so. I'm a bit of a Strictly widower. Widower? Nyla, my missus, absolutely loves it. Never misses a second of it, and she subjects me to that thing that's on every night as well. It Strictly Takes Two or something like that. That's Monday to Friday. I just retire out of the room, to be honest. Oh. But enough of that, because who have we got coming with a Strictly connection?
We have Tommy BLaize, who is the voice of Strictly Come Dancing.
Ah, yeah. Now, to me, that is the best thing about Strictly is the band.
Yes, he's been a lead singer with the band for 20 years.
All right, so he's striking out on his own. When's he coming to sing to us?
He's coming on Thursday, the 6th of June, and he's going to be singing songs and telling stories about the legends he's worked alongside.
Do you think we're going to get a bit of backstage gossip?
I think we might. Yeah. So Strictly fans need to get tickets. It's on sale now.
Mind you, the way the tabloids hover around Strictly, there can't be that much backstage gossip goes on that doesn't get into the papers. We were just chatting before. I mean, Sean Walsh, he had his 15 minutes of infamy as a result of a little incident on Strictly a couple of years ago. Oh. Made a very funny show when he came afterwards as well. Anyway, he's on soon and he's sold out again.
He is. He might mention it, yeah.
So we've got Tommy BLaize, is that his name?
Tommy BLaize, yes.
Excellent. Should be interesting.
It should be. So get your tickets now.
Right. Now then, what have we got coming up in the next few days?
We have on Wednesday, the 20th of September at 8 o'clock, comedy with Andy Parsons.
I was chatting to Peter Peter Dixon about this the other week, and I remember when Andy Parsons was one of the bright new things of the new wave of comedians and stuff like that, but he's not anymore like the rest of us. He's getting on a bit, and he's been around a bit. Should be good, though.
It should be. And I don't think there's many tickets left. So anybody that wants a ticket, you have to go through the Funny Way to Be website.
Right. Okie dokie. That's funnywaytobe.com.
Yes.
So that's Wednesday the 20th. What have we got coming up next weekend?
We have a musical weekend, starting with Royal Northern Symphonia on Saturday, the 23rd of September at 6 o'clock.
That's more up your street than mine, I think. A bit of classical stuff.
Yes. This is one of 4 concerts they're doing for the 23-24 season. And it features a bassoon quartet, oboe quartet, and clarinet and string quartet. And they're finishing off with Dvorak's American Quartet.
My sister, when she was young, learnt to play the clarinet, and that's put me off it for life. She got very good at it, but it took an awful lot of practice.
It's always the same when you start with an instrument, yes.
Absolutely. And we didn't live in the biggest of houses. So I sought sanctuary in the shed sometimes.
Did you play an instrument?
I started off playing the piano when I was young. We had a piano in the house, and my mum learnt to play, and then I learnt to play a bit. But it was around the same time that I decided I was going to be opening the batting for England at cricket as well. So the piano went by the by, unfortunately. Yeah, as did the cricket. I never quite made the dizzy heights.
Oh.
But no, the Royal Northern Symphonia sounds smashing.
Yes, that's the new partnership with the Witham, so definitely looking forward to that one.
Excellent. And then finally on Sunday the 24th.
Yeah, the following day at 2 o'clock, so an afternoon concert, we've got Barnard Castle Community Choir. That's our first concert at the Witham, and they're performing Sing, Sing, Sing. Ah,
yes. Now, we talked about this in one of our earlier podcasts with the choir's director, who also does the community orchestra, Annette Butters.
Yes.
So if you scroll back down Series 1, of the podcast, you'll find more details in there and have a listen to what Annette has to say about it all. But it should be a good, fun afternoon, I think.
It will. Very light-hearted. They do pop, classical, musical, theatre and folk. So something for everyone.
Do you think they can find room for me in amongst that lot with my beautiful voice?
Possibly, Stuart. But you might have to audition, maybe.
Yeah, well, maybe not. So, for all these wonderful events, where can we get tickets?
By calling the box office, Stuart.
On?
01833 631107.
Oh, you didn't have that written down this week, did you?
No, I didn't.
It's a good job you got it right. That's all right. And if we go online, where can we get tickets online?
www.thewitham.org.uk.
Exactly. Now, you say that by rote, you see. And then
yeah, I'm all right with that one.
Absolutely. It's a telephone number. I mean, who has a landline these days?
No.
You know, I can't even remember my mobile number, never mind the landline. I don't know. Excellent stuff. Sounds like a good week coming up, and nice to see you again.
And you, Stuart.
And we'll talk again soon.
Okay, bye.
So that's it for this week. Thanks everyone for joining us once again. I'll say cheerio and see you next time. And we're going to leave you with a Beatles classic. This is Paperback Writer.
Paperback writer. Sir or madam, will you read my book? It took me years to write. Will you take a look? It's based on a novel by a man named Lear, and I need a job, so I want to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. It's a dirty story of a dirty man, and his clinging wife doesn't understand. His son is working for the Daily Mail. It's a steady job, but he wants to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. Paperback writer. Change it round, and I want to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. If you really like it, you can have the rights. We could make $1 million for you overnight. If you must return it, you can send it here. But I need a break, and I want to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer. Paperback writer.
Thanks for listening to In the Spotlight from the Witham, Barnard Castle's Community Arts Centre. Available on all major podcast platforms. So please give us a follow and leave a comment. Or listen online at www.thewitham.org.uk. We'll be back soon with another episode.